So Whole Foods has four brackets currently, right? In 2023, they're going to have four brackets in 2024, but this year they're using regions, right? So if you are in 1 to 3 regions, if you are in 4 regions, if you are in 5 to 7 regions, right? Though each of those is its own bracket. Beginning in January of 2024, they're switching it from a region based bracket system to a percentage of stores bracket system. So the lowest bracket is going to be bracket number 4. And that is if a brand is in less than 25% of stores, they will be bracket number 4. And from what I understand from information that was provided to me from someone else, less than 25% of stores is about 120 stores, just to kind of give that,
Okay.
kind of quantify that a little bit. So then you've got bracket number 3, which is no less than 25% of stores. Bracket 2, which is no less than 50% of stores. And then bracket number 1, the highest paying bracket, is going to be no less than 75% of stores. Okay. So that's a bit of a change that's happening there. It seems like there are some brands that maybe didn't have to pay fees historically that will have to pay them beginning January 2024. Full disclaimer here, I haven't talked to a lot of brands about this personally. I've talked to a couple, and obviously the one that sort of shared this information with me as well. So what this means is essentially that if you want to run a promotion of some kind, so this is going to include everything from a temporary price reduction, so like a promotion, right? 50% off, $1 off, whatever that might be. If you want to run one of those, if you want to do a fixture that's like, let's say, an end cap, or like a bin that's a value bin, or you want to have your product stationed somewhere where it's like a quick impulse buy, right? There's going to be a fee for that. If you have a seasonal SKU, if you want to run a weekly promotional marketing, if you want to have in-store demos, if you want to be a part of their supplier road shows, like all of these types of things that Whole Foods offers as marketing and promotions in store and in flyer, there are fees associated with that, and the fees are going to be applied according to the bracket that you are in.
Okay.
So, where this is going to hit most of the brands that listen to this podcast, I believe, is going to be in the temporary price reductions, which we're going to shorten to TPR. Okay. So, a temporary price reduction, if you're in bracket 4, where maybe historically you ran a promotion and then just paid for, you paid the chargeback, right? So, let's say the total price reduction to customers was $400, right? During that promotion time, you're going to pay the $400 back to the store. Now, in addition to that $400, if you're in bracket 4, you're also going to pay $2,700 just as a fee, as a flat fee.
Okay, so as someone on the outside, this is what I wanted to understand about this story. I've heard you talk about trade spend before. I've been with the company for a while, right? I do have some rudimentary understanding of trade spend, but I want you to break this down a little bit more for me. So what I hear you saying is that not only do I now, as a brand, have to pay to play when it comes to temporary price reductions, like you were just talking about, but I can't even pay to play until I pay. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I consider pay to play being the $2,700,
Yeah.
the flat fee. Like that is the paying to play, in my opinion, because you have to pay that fee in order to run a promo. So, yes, what you're saying is accurate. I would just call the pay to play that front end expense. And the problem with that, right, is that in order to drive trial, meaning in order to get someone who's maybe looked at your product a couple of times but has never purchased it because of the price point, or they're just like not sure, they're afraid to take a risk, right? Or you're a brand new product in a new region and you want to get folks to try your product, there is now a greater cost to you to drive trial, because this is
Yeah.
not a one time pay to play fee. This is if you want to run a temporary price reduction once a quarter, you're paying $2,700 a quarter each
Every
time you run the
quarter.
promo. Yeah.
Jeez.
And as you move through the bracket, so that lowest bracket is $2,700. The next, bracket 3 is going to be $5,500. Bracket 2 is $8,300, and bracket 1, that top, tier bracket, is $11,000 to run the promo. And I'm sure, there is work that goes into running a promo, right? But I don't know that, that's a whole nother conversation to argue whether or not it's appropriate to charge a fee to run a promotion in store. I mean, especially when in many stores it's considered a required activity to participate. Now, when we talk about things like the off-shelf fixtures, as they're called, like that end cap, like that impulse like position, that's something where there's always been a fee to have that kind of placement. So it's nothing new that there's a flat fee for that. The new thing happening with Whole Foods is that the fees are changing and they're structured by bracket. So let's talk about like the impulse fixture, right? Bracket number 3 would pay $2,500 a month to have their product in that fixture. Bracket number 2 would pay $4,000, and bracket number 1 would pay $7,333 a month. So depending on how broad your reach is in the Whole Food stores, how many stores you're in, is going to affect how much you pay. And so, I think this is important to talk about here because A, it's new, it's rolling out in January. If you are selling at Whole Foods and if this is going to affect you, you should have known about it actually way back in July, because that's when, I think the end of July is when promotions for the upcoming year needed to be put in place. I want to talk about it here because this is an ever evolving thing. This idea of trade spend, this idea of the cost of paying to play, right? We see it increasing in a variety of different ways. And that is something that we need to keep our, finger on the pulse of as we try to figure out how we push this good food movement forward and get more good food, into more homes, because some of that is going to have to happen through traditional grocery stores.
Yeah, and I think it's, stories like this and as you called it, insider information, right? Like as a consumer, this is not something I'm going to be able to go on the internet and find a news article and learn about this. And I think that it really explains why, as a consumer, when I walk into a Whole Foods, maybe why the brand that I love isn't in the impulse fixture like it always was, right? Or why the price has gone up or gone down, or, things that I don't, as a consumer, understand when I'm walking through the grocery store. This is it really shines a light on.
Yeah.
And helps me as a consumer, I think, to make my own choices.
Yeah. And in that vein, sharing it here on the podcast as well is right. We want founders to be able to make their own choices, right? So this is not a conversation that we're having because we want to prevent a brand from working with Whole Foods. Certainly not. It's all about being fully informed, being aware, knowing what types of questions to ask, whether you're working with Whole Foods or whether you're embarking on a partnership with a different national retailer, right? The more you know that retailers are doing, the more you know sort of what they're up to and what changes are happening in certain stores, the increased awareness you have and the better questions you can ask that retailer.
Yeah.